Hi there, my name is Marcus Moscani, and today I'm going to be narrating Parents, Pop Culture, and Peers, and how those affect student achievement in adolescence in school. Alright, so we're going to start first with the parents' role in student achievement. Bradley M. Allen and al., they did an article on the main role of parents in student achievement, and one of their main points was that parents that are active in a lot of the children's activities, their clubs, and are more active with their social life as well as their teachers, they usually tend to create a sort of atmosphere of understanding and positivity towards learning as a whole, and students tend to be far more successful than they would if the parents were not actively involved. And that shows up in the next part, where we relate this to two social theories, the first one being the sociocultural theory. And for Vygotsky, he says that any sort of learning involves watching another person, whether it be a peer or your parent. In this situation, you're watching your parent, and creating a positive relationship between parent and child helps those children succeed due to wanting to emulate their parents personally, and also more at a cultural level as well, if the culture is far more deep into the parent and the child's life. Also, the assistance of parents in learning helps students reach their zone of proximal learning if they are not doing very well on their own when they're trying to learn a new concept. And then we also have the bioecological model by Bronfenbrenner. Bronfenbrenner's, it relates the most to the mesosystem, a part of the model where it's an indirect influence on the child. And this is the teachers and parents interacting with each other, where the child isn't necessarily interacting with the parent or teacher directly, but the interactions between the teacher and the parent have a impact on their life, because the parent is directly involved with what the child is doing in probably their schoolwork, in their sports, in their clubs, and that helps the achievement and well-being of a student as a whole. Now we move on to applications in the classroom. You can create assignments for parents and students in order to be done together, in order to get a parent more involved in their child in the classroom. That's a really good way, and it's a pretty easy way to do it. It can't be a too terribly long of an assignment, but creating a kind of cohesive need for their parents is really important. Also, setting up club and sport events for the families to come and watch their children. That might not only be like watching the sport, but also might be recognizing the achievements that a child has made during their time in that activity. So now we're going to move on to peers' roles in student achievement. Hoshang Okoshima and their group described an article, and they said that peers tend to work off each other, and they tend to help fill in the pieces that their peers do not normally see, because they bring a lot of different perspectives, because many of your peers don't have the exact same background as you do. So they can bring in a lot of interesting perspectives from their personal life, from their culture, from their just identity. And that strengthens everyone's achievement, because it allows them to look at learning in a completely different perspective. And also students can show each other the proper procedures in order to do certain activities. And one of the more positive examples of this is the integration of special needs students and students with learning disabilities being able to find more information on how to do something properly when they have someone that can demonstrate it to them, which is a really good way to learn certain skills in the classroom. For non-English speakers, it allows them to be integrated and learn more of the English That's a more positive way for those who do not receive support. All right. And we go to Vygotsky and Bronfenbrenner's relation to peer involvement. So with sociocultural theory, it once again builds on the entire idea that we interact with people in order to learn by viewing what they do. Interacting with peers in clubs, academics, and athletics allows you to emulate what you see from your peers. It also allows you to create social groups that you're more comfortable with in order to not only succeed academically, but it also allows you to have a healthy social career and sort of existence in school, which can help with later on with getting jobs, being able to communicate with employers, and the sort. And now we go to the bioecological model. Now for this one, we talk about the microsystem. And the microsystem is more of the person actually and their direct interactions. When students are at school, a majority, 3/4 of their year is around those peers they interact with every single weekday. They're going to have a huge influence on that person's life because they're always going to be there. So being able to interact with your peers and having constant exposure to them, you have constant exposure to many different learning situations. Maybe even if you don't even realize it or not. That's a really good way for students to learn. The applications in the classroom. Teachers can nurture peer relationships by using the jigsaw technique. The jigsaw technique is creating a task that students may not be able to complete, or hopefully the point is to not be able to complete without cohesive work with their peers. So that's a good way to have assignments in the classroom in order to make peer bonding. Also, peers can evaluate each other's work in order to give new perspectives and give a new point of view, because it's actually rather difficult to analyze exactly what you might have done wrong on a paper, on a problem, if you're looking at it, because you think you can't see your own mistakes. It's very difficult to do that, at least. All right. Now, pop culture's role in student achievement. This is a bit more abstract. Ms. Tisdale described that students consume pop culture in large quantities from their teachers, which is a very interesting point. The teachers who try to be more relevant with their students tend to create a far more personable bond, which helps the students feel that the lesson is far more relevant to them. And that creates more motivation, and that thus leads to them being more likely to succeed. Having positive role models for education, for academics especially, being like, for example, watching someone who achieved greatness by being a good student. You could look at Carl Sagan, perhaps, as just the example of an incredibly brilliant scientist who went and, because he applied himself, he was able to do incredible things for how we understand science. And he could be a role model to many people who want to go into science. And at a time, he was relevant. But then you have to also take into account the time. So now a person that is far more relevant to this time is Neil deGrasse Tyson, who could be a very good positive role model for a lot of new people who want to join science, and science as a field, as an example. All right. We have sociocultural theory. Vygotski's sociocultural theory covers pop culture and concept of learning from people that you look up to. There's a lot of media of people that you may look up to, like athletes, scholars, musicians, who each try to they basically create an image. Even if they don't want to, people are going to emulate them whether they want to or not. So that's one way that people learn and achieve, if they have positive role models. And when someone is front and center, they're always going to be emulated. And then you have the bioecological model, and this talks about the macro system. The macro system encompasses cultural values of an entire society, and that includes pop culture. Pop culture is incredibly important to that, and people who are relevant forces in that can influence an entire culture. through music, through art, through their deeds. So you have politicians, athletes, musicians who all put their values out there, and people can very easily take that into account. And you don't even need to be a politician to have like very politically charged views about certain things. And when students look at those, they begin to analyze more about the world, more different perspectives, and how those people got to the place where they were. And it allows them to have almost a guideline of how they can go to achieve that greatness. And that can be in academics, that can be in athletics, it can be in quite a few different things. So one of the main applications that Tisdale made in her paper was that pop culture is best used when a teacher puts it into their lesson to be relevant. And that creates a sort of cohesive understanding between the teacher and the student, which allows the teacher to seem more relevant. And if the teacher is more relevant and makes it so the lesson is enjoyable, students are more likely to achieve because they're going to want to do it. And that creates people who want to be intrinsically motivated to learn. And that's incredibly important in the classroom. All right, these are some of the references. Thank you so much.